Welcome, flight simmers. Well, this video is to show you how to position your aircraft in the air to shoot multiple approaches without having to start at an airport, take off, fly somewhere, and shoot approaches. Even though, as an example, at Washington Dulles, KIAD, you could take off on the runway, fly downwind, and shoot an approach. I tend to do my approaches from a cross-country flight. And if something would happen en route and mess up the whole thing, this way you can start off right at the airport. Now I'm using the Inibuild Airbus A350-1000. It's a brand new aircraft from Inibuild. It does not like to be slewed or teleported. But after several attempts, I figured out how to accomplish it. So first of all, you've got to put your airplane where you want it. I'm putting it at Dulles 19 Center, and I'm going to land back on 19 Center. I'm using live weather. Pretty crummy day in DC today. Won't see much ground. So let's start the sim. The first thing you have to do is you have to set up the aircraft. Scam. People like to scam me, I guess. Also, you're going to want to go to Sim Brief. In this case, I made a flight plan from Dulles to Dulles, just so I would have information for the flight. Hey, that's kind of cool. Kind of a busy day at Dulles. Oh, little executive jet. We're like a B-52 carrying an X-plane. Okay, let's be ready to fly out on the runway. Now what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to set up the aircraft. So I've kind of figured out how to do this pretty fast. So let's look at the ground. We don't really need to do anything about ground. The load sheet, we want to import it from SimBrief. Set the zero fuel weight. That weight and the CG gets imported. The fuel load. Now you got CG there. Go to Takeoff Performance, sync SimBrief again, sync the information. Now you've got the temperature, winds, runway, gross weight, flaps 1. We can set the correct runway, 19 Center, and we can compute the V-speeds. And we can send that to the FMS. And then landing performance, the same way, sync the SimBrief, sync over here, puts the winds and everything again. Now you have to put in the weight, your landing weight. And you can get that off of that sim brief information. And you can compute the landing distance. And then in terminal charts, we're just going to select the ILS 19 center cat 2 and 3. We're going to pin it so we can find it real fast and then display it. There are the fixes, and down here are all the altitudes and the minimums. So on a cat 2, the radar altimeter is going to be at 110. There is no decision height on cat 3A, B, and C, just visibility. And as you see, cat 3C has no visibility. So 110, we'll have to remember that. Then we want to go over to the MCDUs and the FMS. So the first thing we need to do is initialize the system. And sometimes on your cross countries you can import all of it, but because we're at the airport and coming back to the airport, we're going to have to input this information ourselves. So version 577. And then we're going from Dulles, KIAD, to KIAD, and we'll put in an alternate of Baltimore, KBWI. And the next thing is the altitude. We'll put in 10,000. And now that information is in there. Now we want to go to departure. We're not going to take off, so it really doesn't matter, but you need to put all this information in. At least the runway, no SIDS, temporarily, and input it. Then let's go to the landing. Runway 19 center, and ILS. And we're going to via all the fixes on that final and no star. And we'll input that. So now the flight plan is in there. Let's go to the perf page. Remember, I did takeoff data over on the EFB, so it will send it to the FMS and we can confirm the V speeds here. So there's the V speeds, flexing 68, flaps 1, packs on, anti-ice off, thrust reduction altitude, and then we want to go in and put the approach information. So you have to input this manually. We'll say the winds are 180 at 15. Again, you can get that information. Whoops. You gotta select the box. And then it will automatically go to the next box. And the temperature is about 14. Altimeter's 2954, pretty low. That's why it's raining and cloudy. And remember we said the radio altimeter was going to be, I think it was 110. Let's look back over there and see. Yeah, 110. And there's the airplane sitting on the runway. Now you're inputting all of this information because the airplane's going to use it to figure out its approach speed, which is 144, and it's going to tell you when you're at minimums at 110 feet. Next page is the fuel load. All that information is already in there. brought from the other pages. And the only thing it wants to know is how many people you got. We'll say 353. And then over on the FO side, I like to put the perf page so that I can activate the approach later on in the air. Okay. Let's turn the auto brakes on. Again, we're not going to take off, but we are setting everything up. There's a constraint so we can see what all the fixes are. They're pink. The altitudes, I mean. Let's go down here and do a takeoff configuration warning test. And that should say something's, oh, I don't have the flaps set. Flaps to takeoff, 1. Engines are in reverse, so let's put them up to idle. 3.3 is a good idle. Flaps are at takeoff, 1 to 2 instead of 1. Let's try that takeoff again. There we are, no green. I'm sorry, no blue. Remember, the concept in a Airbus product is you see no white lights, so everything that's on is dark. Only if you turn something on out of the ordinary do you get a light. And the ECAM messages that you get, all this stuff should be green with no blue. Blue means you need to do something. Okay, so let's put that altimeter in there. 2954. And you check the altitude on the altimeter to make sure those are right. Oops, am I taking off? 10,000 is our altitude. We've got everything set up. So now we want to slew. So again, you want to go into, I'll show you this. We want to go into settings. And we want to go to general. And we want to go to advanced options. And we want to turn on developer mode. So if that box is not checked, you want to do that. And then when you come back, you'll have this row of menus up here. So now we're going to use the teleport window. Now what you want to do is you want to go to bing.com, which is the map that Microsoft Flight Simulator uses. And you want to find the lat long for where you want the airplane to spawn to. So I went out on final about 35 miles north of the airport and got the lat long and inputted it, and that's it right there. And that's the format. 39 point the rest minus 77 point the rest, and now we want to go there. And we're here. There's even a building here. So now we want to slew up to about 10,000 feet. And if you hit the E key, which will slew you, and count 1001 to 15, you'll be at about 10,000 feet. So let's do that. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005, 7, 1008, 1009, 1010, 12, 1013, 14, 15. Okay, so hopefully we'll be up at about 10,000 feet. And we're going to fix that lady yakking in just a second. So now if you turn off slew mode, the airplane's going to fly. And we don't want it to fly, so the next thing we're going to do is hit Option and pause the sim. I'm not sure. I don't think you can do that now, but let's try it. Hey, it worked. Okay, so now we are at 13,000 feet. Let's go down and shut her off.
Temperature 16C.
So the air traffic facilities that I use is called Say Intentions, and it is a artificial intelligence based system. So it's not real people, it's AI, and it works really good. And there's a lot of things like filing flight plans and getting your weather and your clearance on your phone. And when you land, you get these cool chevrons that show you where to taxi to the gate. So now we have got the airplane approximately where we want. See, there's that fix right there, the initial approach fix. So we're about 9 miles north of it. Now the simulator does not like this. So what we're going to do, I found by trial and error, we're going to hand fly the airplane until we get it under control and turn the automation on, and then we'll be able to fly from this position. So we want to put the gear up. That will work right now. We want to put the flaps up. That will not work until you release the sim. Oh, it went up. It's just not showing there until we release. Now, we're at 10,000. We want, this won't work either until we release. Let's get rid of that master caution. It says the brake's on. Is the brake on? It is. Oh, we can take that off. That's good. And we can also go down here and clear the message on the ECAM. We don't want that. So we can arm the auto brakes for landing. And we can set the ECAM to engine. There it is. And we can set the FMS to flight plan. So we're going to clean this up in a little bit. But for right now, and see what I said about the co-pilots, there's the activate approach. We'll do that in a minute also. So the first thing we want to do is we want to release the airplane. We want to hand fly it and get it under control. So let's do that now. Hang on. Here we go. So now we want to fly. So let's fly the flight director for now. We'll see. We don't want to be climbing, but we do want the speed to get under control. So it says to go back down. And we don't want the speed at 156, so let's put it at 230. Let's level the wings. And we'll see if it is going to... Let's turn on the autopilot and the auto thrust. Now we got to make sure the thrust is set correctly. So there's the climb detent. Let's see what's going on now. Yep, I don't like that airspeed. Should not be doing that. So let's shut off the auto thrust. Let's bring the thrust levers back. It's slowing down. Let's set the speed at 250. It looks like it's going to maintain 10,000. That's good. It's slowing down. When it gets down here to about 250, I'm going to turn back on the auto thrust and set, if just by moving these it will set it. So there's climb. Turn on the auto thrust. It says speed mode. Let's see if it will. Looks like it might be doing it. Very good. We are at 10,250 knots. And there are our fixes. But we want to go back out and shoot the approach from the farthest one, the initial approach fix. So let's turn left to north. This thing goes too fast. Okay, so it looks like I have it under control, have the automation turned on. That's the procedure to get the airplane so that you can shoot multiple approaches without having to take off. So let me stop this video now. The rest of the flight is just shooting a regular ILS down to the runway. Well, I hope this helps you out. I had to do quite a bit of research to figure out how to do it. There is another option. There's a commercial add-on program, and I can't remember the name of it. I apologize. But it costs about 50 or 60 bucks US. And I wanted to be able to do this without having to spend more money. So now you know this is how to do it, or one of the ways to do it. And works pretty well. So thanks again for joining me. And as always, fly safely. Bye-bye.